Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our brand new podcast, Property and Beyond, with me, Craig Webster, in association with Tiger Sales and Lettings. We look at all the big property stories around the world of property management, sales and lettings. It's a big, ever-evolving subject, and we will have the very latest in each week's episode and the very best guests in the industry. Coming up on this episode, how is the property industry changing? What about regulation? And what is the actual reality of our sector? It's great to have your company, and on this week's episode, I've got a great guest. He is the auctions director of Webbmove, an auction company using the modern method of auction, and it's all based online. Welcome, Steven Whittaker. Thanks for joining us, Steven.
Hi, Craig. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you're not too tired. Steven's just come back from a stag do in Prague, and he's joining us today. Steven brings some really great insight in running the auction company Webbmove, and I want to ask Steven really about. He'll really bring some great depth in how the industry is changing, because he's seen it firsthand at the coalface. So we've got lots to get through this week. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So, Steven, what are your thoughts on how the property industry is changing?
I've seen it change massively. I think people from on all areas of the chain are more involved now, buyers, sellers, whatever. And I think they have high expectations. Once upon a time, when I started out, it was very old fashioned. You kind of left your solicitor, your agents to kind of do what they do. And now I think the expectations are getting higher and higher. So it's meaning that you've really got to be on the ball. And we're finding that clients are quite happy, to perhaps pay a bit more for a better agent rather than just using, there's a few, without naming names, there's a few online ones appeared, and they offer a great service, but there's a lot of hidden fees, supposedly a great service anyway, a lot of hidden fees, and then the clients are coming to us kind of second hand. So I'm noticing a lot of changes.
That's good. Yeah, me and Chris spoke last week. Obviously, you know Chris. He's a sales director at Tiger, and we were discussing very similar actually in terms of there's a lot of information out there for people now buying and selling properties. So they really do the digging online before they actually engage with a company. But like you say, to get the best value for their asset or their property, people are prepared to pay a little bit more money for professionalism across the spectrum. I mean, how I see the industry changing, as well as kind of that digitalization of the industry and the profession, is that we have to start tackling kind of the more antiquated systems as well within the industry. Like, I think there's a stat out there at the moment that it takes 120 days on average to go from a sale agreed to completion, which is just crazy in this day and age where people have got so much technology to their hand and so much information available that we're still using. I referred to it earlier with a CEO of a large company. I referred to it as we're still selling properties on the back of a fag pack. Because it's so antiquated and dated that we need to really look at that as an industry and a profession. And you've got something really kind of unique at Webbmove for buying and selling properties, but it kind of navigates that issue, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So like a little bit of background, I've done estate agents for a long time, and again, I've seen it change, and it seems to, like the figure you just quoted, 120 days. I mean, so some people listening, they might think, well, that's the odd property, and it really isn't. And I've been in a lot of firms where, you're kind of just a number and whatever, and you move up and down the pile. So when I kind of set this up, it was a case of, it was a frustration out of the market. It was the way things were going. And, when you think about the process, it isn't actually that complicated. So there's no reason it should be taking that long. So it was kind of looking for a different option, really. And the only way, certainly in England, to secure things is through auction. So, it was just a case of moving on to that model. It is much the same as what you would do kind of open market. It's just all done in reverse. So we get all the legal stuff available up front. People can send that off to a solicitor, so it's not anything to worry about. They can check through. You can get surveys and stuff done, and then that's because you've done all the legwork. When you come to actually make your offer and you legally bound, there's nothing to worry about because you've done your due diligence. So it's great.
It's quite similar to the actual Scottish model, which people that tune in every week will realise. I'm a lover of the Scottish model. I know it comes with its critics, but ultimately everything's done from the off. There's no kind of last minute pulling out, which is just a bugbear of our whole profession from speaking to people. And I know on the back of that, there's more agents are turning to auction, which is a great method of buying and selling for buyers and sellers because there's a commitment there from the outset and no one can change their mind. But there's also a growing trend of reservation agreements as well, which again, it's anything that can help speed up the process, make it more efficient, but also get the commitment from my point of view for buyers and sellers, because it's such an inefficient system that we're using.
Well, I think the commitment's massive as well, because if you think about it, like again, to use England as an example, if I'm selling my house and I've paid for removals and I've paid for all sorts and I've switched job, and then the buyer pulls out a day before exchange, there's nothing you can do. Like you can't get any of your costs back. You just have to take that on the chin, and it's just not fair. So I think auctions, hopefully solves that.
It's not fair, and we see it more often than you'd care to imagine at Tiger, where people are changing them. I've seen people change their mind on the day of completion. Mm-hmm. There's removal vans outside a property, and they're turning around and saying, "Oh, actually, we don't want to proceed any further." I've dealt with one this morning. Tiger have sold their house. Everything's tied up. We've got the mortgage offer. Everything is done. Their onward purchase, they thought was all set, all ready to go. It's caught up in probate, and it's 4 months away from completion. That property should never be on the market because it not only kind of lets down our client that we're selling for, it lets down our client that's buying their house, and we become the fall guy. And it just needs so much more improvement.
It ties in with what you said at the start as well, because again, if you're using a good agent, that shouldn't happen because that property shouldn't even be on the market.
Correct.
I understand when probate's not quite been granted, but you need to ensure that it's been, the solicitor has no concerns, it's at least been applied for, and then you can kind of start to market it. But I think the trouble is people are just super keen to sign a contract, get the property on the market, as in the agents. And really, you better slowing down a bit. Obviously, once you've got everything you need, go for it, get it on, get it sold. But at least do the legwork.
Be prepared, and I think that's a bugbear of solicitors as well. And my work with Property Mark that I do, we are constantly pushing people and agents and companies, get your client prepared because it's going to speed up your transaction time. Sometimes it falls down with solicitors. Solicitors don't want to take, they want to do their legwork themselves, and it becomes a little bit kind of, you come up against a brick wall. But if all sides can work together across one uniform system, that's got to help. I spoke to the president-elect of Property Mark last week, Ian, who's doing a great panel discussion at Property Mark 1, and his thoughts are anything that helps move a sale agreed to completion and drops the fall through rate or drops sales falling off and creates more pounds in the bank of companies can only be a good thing.
Of course.
Because agents are under so much strain financially across the board that any kind of help, anything helps that can put more pounds in the bank, because there's something like £400 million worth of lost business from sale fall throughs because the system is just not up to what it should be.
Yeah, it's so crazy, isn't it? And I think, again, we've seen it change. Like when I started out, fees were very, very expensive. Then it was a race to the bottom. But then, unfortunately, because of overheads, for instance, Rightmove, a lot of them closed down. So I think it became apparent that you can't do it for next to nothing. But also, obviously, that was driven by the vendors wanting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. But they also expected a great service, and it doesn't work. You can't do it that way. It needs to be happy medium.
You can't be expecting to pay peanuts. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Yeah, quite. We know a few of those.
Yeah, that's unfortunately how it turns out. I mean, because you're doing everything under modern method of auction, really, how you're selling properties. How many fall-throughs have you had? But it's not. I bet it's minimal because you've. I
know this figure because I say it on most client meetings, and it's 3. It's 3. And there was something to do with money laundering was one, something else where he didn't realise what he was buying, and I forget the last one. But the vendor, on one of them, the vendor was actually happy, believe it or not, because they pulled out through no fault of the vendor, they're messing around, and then they were able to get the deposit. So they got a 10% deposit, which allowed them to then sell the property again. And to them, I mean, they were lovely people, and to them, it was about £10,000, which is a lot of money. And that really should be how it works, because they'd made arrangements. They then had to still proceed with the purchase under a bridge agreement, so it was very expensive. So why shouldn't the person that's caused that pay fees? It doesn't make any sense.
It makes. Do you know what you've just described there is how the system should be working?
Yeah,
you wouldn't be able to go into any shop in the world or any professional office in the world and say, I tell you what, I want you to do so much work for me, and then I'm going to pay you at the end, and then change your mind and go, oh, actually, I didn't want the work. It wouldn't happen.
There'd be nobody left in business, would there?
No one. It's just the most crazy model going.
Yeah.
And it only is on property, which is the biggest asset you're ever going to buy or sell. The whole system doesn't make sense.
A really good point that as well about it being the biggest asset, because if you're selling your house and you've managed to get, I don't know, £200 off the fee or whatever, and your agent's inexperienced, and are they going to be able to negotiate? I mean, for instance, one of the guys that works here said today, and it was a really good point, he agreed a sale on a property, spoke to the vendor, and they were happy with X amount, but he thought, you know what, I've got a duty of care, I'll go and see if I can get him a little bit more. So he get him an extra couple of £1,000, and the vendor's like absolutely over the moon, because again, she doesn't have endless money. It pays the solicitor bill, it pays the agent, and he didn't need to do that. And that's the thing. Some agents, they want to just agree it and it's great and they'll put it online, but actually you need to get the most money for your client. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Do you know what? And that is going to bring us on to our next topic, because what you've just said there is all about kind of consistency of professional standards across the board. Because that person, that agent there that has gone and fought for the client and got them more money, that's the job. That is the job of an estate agent. But that turns out to be kind of one point that you go, amazing, that's amazing service. My wife, Hayley, she went into the Trafford Centre. She was fed up of lackluster service in shops, and she went into one shop and she said the girl was fantastic. And then I turned around and went, but that's a job. What she's just done there is give you good service. But we've got accustomed to not getting good service.
Yeah. So you should say that. I have this conversation with a mate of mine, and it seems to be almost the new norm in the UK, and it's strange. I mean, I'm not saying it's like that everywhere, but you know, like when you go to America, I mean, all right, it might be a little bit too much, but at least over there, and obviously it's tips and stuff like that, but they're really keen. But it seems to be the exception that people want to, you know, really do a decent job. Rather than the rule, which it should be the other way around, shouldn't it?
It should be the other way. So let's park that there, Stephen, and let's move on to regulation. And is regulation the way that we get the consistency and professional standards across the industry? Because we all know, or we know, because we're working in the profession, estate agents don't actually need to be qualified or licensed to practice. Now, I'm fully qualified. I know you're fully qualified. And I like to think that we provide excellent service and excellent advice to clients as well. But unfortunately, there's some agents out there that don't. And is that where we might see an inconsistency in standards?
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. And what you just said there was bang on as well, in the sense that I reckon a lot of people listening to this will probably think that you need a qualification or you need something to do this job. I mean, what you said earlier, it's your biggest asset. Of course, any other career, solicitor, whatever, you couldn't practice that without a qualification. So I actually really do think it is the way forward, because now, and I've seen it myself in various companies and whatever, people can literally be jumping on them phones, within a week or two of employment. Well, if you're, again, going back to negotiating and stuff, if you don't know what you're really doing, that's dangerous, because you could cost a lot of money. So yeah, I think regulation is the way forward. And I don't really see what the counter argument would be. Like, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it makes. I understand the counter argument, because the counter argument is there are some good agents that are very experienced that aren't qualified.
Yeah.
But then my kind of point to them is get qualified, because you've got the ability to. It doesn't take that. It does take time and effort, but it's not that much effort to get qualified if you're already doing the job and you're already good at your job. Let's just get qualified. Let's become members of Property Mark. It strengthens Property Mark as well. And it becomes the go-to voice for agency in the home. And there should be just a minimum qualification and a minimum standard of practice, because all agents have to do at the moment is be members of the Property Ombudsman and abide by the Estate Agent Act, which is dated back to 1979.
Yeah, it also comes with a lot of benefits as well of being a member. For example, we've been ourselves, I know we've met up at a couple of the conferences and stuff. And if you've got a team of staff, it comes with a lot of training and stuff like that. And it actually would help your business because they're kind of doing the training for you. So yeah, regulation is a must. I think
it's a must. It's a must, isn't it? And I think if people were aware that agents didn't need to be qualified, and that's across sales and lettings and auction, I think people would be shocked, because 70% of people would rather deal with a qualified agent as the qualification. I wouldn't have a gas engineer look at my boiler at home unless I knew they were gas safe. I wouldn't go to Jim down the street for me MOT, and that's nothing against Jim. Yeah. But I want someone that actually knows my brakes are going to work and my tyres are right.
Yeah.
So
to save the £100, £200, you go with a professional, don't you? In any industry, you've got to.
You've got to, and you know what you're going to get if you use a professional, and they've got to abide by certain rules and regulations that others don't have to. And it just improves the whole professionalism of the entire industry, and it's a better experience. It's a better experience of people working within the sector. It might attract new talent in as well. And it's better for the client, because the client's going to probably find that they get more value back in return.
Yeah, and if it's not optional, exactly, and if it's not optional, the regulation, because I think a lot of the time the clients may not even think about it. Like we're saying, it's an education thing. So if it's not optional, they then have the choice of all of the best people. So it's absolutely.
Yeah, it just creates a level playing field, and it removes people from the market that aren't good for the market, if that makes sense.
It does, and we can probably we won't be naming examples, but we probably could.
I'm sure most people could name certain people, and people that have gone out of business or still in business that maybe shouldn't be. Sometimes things aren't robust enough to deal with them people. So let's park that there, because that brings us really nicely onto our final topic of the day, which is what's actually happening in reality with the sector. Because as we have just touched on there, agents don't need to be qualified. public probably don't realise agents don't have to be qualified, and that brings the standards lower. And that is, for me, that's the reality of the sector. Is not enough people are aware that agents don't need to be qualified.
Yeah, I agree. As we said earlier, that it's just a knowledge thing, isn't it?
It's a knowledge and it's a qualification, isn't it? And as we picked up on right at the very start, lots of people are using technology now to find the agents. And if you're good with a camera, you can pick up business and compete against qualified agents, which isn't entirely fair. On qualified agents that are abiding by a strict code of conduct and guidelines and are audited every year. And it's not fair on the client, because I think that will ultimately cost them money.
Definitely.
Because good agents will also be able to have the presentation and all the marketing skills, but they'll also have the experience and the mindset to be able to navigate what can sometimes be really complicated matters. And especially at the moment, there are complications that can spring out of nowhere that you need to be able to deal with. We know a person a few years ago who no longer works within the industry, fortunately, and he was quite scary. He tried once selling an alleyway, didn't he, as part of the deal that was owned by the council.
Yeah, and that was unfortunately to a good friend of mine's dad. It was his property, and he rang me. He rang me. He wasn't impressed. I think that I was just searching for some words there, but he wasn't impressed with that. You bang on. And I think, it's all well and good again. This is the mindset of some people that it's just got to be on Rightmove, it's just got to be on Zoopla, whatever, which is fine. It does, and of course, but that's a start. But there's little things like, for example, in the day-to-day business at the auction side, I will be able to tell you a client or probably 10 clients that will buy each property. I can pretty much guarantee it, and then they will buy them. You ask an agent that's unqualified and they're not skilled or whatever, they will rely on those leads coming in. So if the client hasn't looked on Rightmove, how do they? Because it used to be, again, 10, 15 years ago, they'd walk through the door, loads of them. I mean, the estate agency offices are really there as part of the brand now. People do come in, but they're not. It's not that frequent. So you've got to be ringing out, and you've got to know what your clients want, and regulation and competence. That's what it's about.
No, that you hit the nail on the head. There is crucial that people kind of know what they're doing, because we have a mutual client whose daughter, I touched on it last week, shit hot on social media and sold about 50 houses, if you remember rightly. And he came to me and went, "Craig, I've sold all these houses." I went, "Brilliant, when's the money in the bank?" And he went, "No, I can't get from sale agreed to money in the bank." And people forget that's the most important part of the whole property journey for the business. From a commercial point of view, that is the most important part, because you need to manage that part correctly to get people paid. And Gail, who does our sales progression, is absolutely brilliant. She has a fantastic relationship with solicitors, and they look at her and go, she's like having an extra legal clerk on the books, because she's going out and doing all the work. Because I've instructed her to. I've said, that's your job, because I want to move that from there to there and get paid.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree totally. Bang on.
So it's crucial. And what I actually find is those agents that aren't perhaps qualified or experienced enough, but are fantastic at marketing, they're the ones that are inaccurately pricing properties as well. And that brings its own issue, because surveyors will value down because they're working for the bank's interest. And that then has a knock-on effect. Either a property's going to stay stale on the market, they've got to reduce the price, which actually becomes better for other agents second, third time round. Yeah. But it just gives such a bad impression to people. Like,
I remember he changed it years ago, and you had to include comparables and things like that. But I don't really think the police that well. But that's a good point as well, because I think also, as much as it's lack of experience, sometimes the opposite. It's a case of they know what they're doing. They sign you into a 4-month agreement because the fee's cheap at a silly price. Well, if you're motivated to sell, you're going to reduce every couple of weeks, and before you know it, you're at the price where the professional agent said. And then you agree the sale finally with this other agent. And then how's it then managed? Will it actually complete? Who knows?
Who knows? Because quite correct. Who knows? It's good, because there's more, like we've just said, there's more to it, and that's why there's nearly a third of property companies that are likely to go bust in the next 12 to 24 months, because they're not taking. Well, the good agents are struggling because there's not so good agents that are out there taking business and not really knowing what to do with it. But then it's just a vicious circle, because it's just affecting everyone. And what we don't want are good agents leaving the market, because there's enough work for everyone, but everyone's got to meet a certain standard.
Yeah, I agree entirely.
So that brings us to the end of our topics. But Stephen, what I've been asking all my guests, and will be asking all my guests each week, is we call it the turning point. Last week it got quite emotional and soppy. You know Chris Houston.
Trust me, you won't get emotional and soppy.
He's an emotional puppy, shall we say. So,
is he going to watch this?
He's probably going to watch it back as well.
Oh, good.
So I'm asking, has there been a moment in your career or life that has changed the way you've thought about things and you do things?
Yeah, definitely. We'll go with career, because we've gone for emotional last week. So career-wise, I think it's definitely the auction business. And I think, again, so just to recap broadly, with all the problems with the property market, I was looking for a totally different thing to do. Even though I loved property, I didn't like the process. And as you'll remember, I made a flippant comment, and then, a day after we're having a pint, and then a day after that, the auction stuff all came to life. And I think that, I guess the lesson there is, if you want something and you want to do something different, just bloody go for it, because you'll get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we both took each other back with it, didn't we, when we decided to go down the auction route.
100%.
With Webmove as well, because you couldn't believe how quick we literally jumped on it. We had the software ready to go. Yeah. It all worked really well, and that's now 5-6 years ago, and it's been a roaring success. Since, excuse the pun, with a link to Tiger.
Yeah, too right.
Anyway, Stephen, it's been great to have your company this week. I think this podcast is going to go down really well, this episode, and don't be surprised if you end up being invited back, because
I'll have to check my schedule, Craig.
We know that you have plenty of spare time.
Yeah.
So a massive thank you, Stephen, for joining us. As I said, Stephen is the auctions director at Webbmove, and hopefully see you on the next episode. Not Stephen, we will have another guest. And don't forget to subscribe so that you can get the releases of this episode every single week when they're released. And follow us at our YouTube channel, Tiger Sales and Lettings, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're on all the social media accounts. And I'll see you next week.